Hey guys, I'm Frey.
Hi, I'm Lowlife.
I'm Maria.
I'm Peachy.
And I'm Toby.
So our first topic is kind of a heavy one, so I don't want to jump right into that. How was everyone's weekend or week? Anything notable? What's some positives we can pull out before we jump into this?
March Madness.
I have some positives.
Woo, woo.
Yeah. I made the TikTok moon mirrors with my best friend in the backyard and got sunburnt. It was great.
You're gonna need to explain what moon mirrors are.
Okay, so the moon mirrors from TikTok are like, you know, all those cottagecore kids. I'm blending in with the TikTokers. So you take a round mirror and then you take like paint or plaster and you like make like a quarter moon on it. So it's like part moon and then like the mirror. They're really cute. It's just really big or else I'd go get it. It's like a absurdly large mirror.
What color is the moon part?
So like the frame of my mirror is gold and then I did like a light gray because it kind of like goes with like the aesthetic of my house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tight. I just don't know where to put it because I might have put the moon in the wrong spot from the mirror's actual hanger. So I like the hanger is on, like if I actually hung this mirror up right now as it is, the moon's on the bottom and that doesn't make any fucking sense. That just looks dumb. So I definitely have to prop it up on something. So now I have to build a table to like put it in the spot that I wanted it in, that like I wanted to hang it on. So, you know, we win some and we lose some. I wasn't going to talk about the shortfalls of my moon mirror. I was just going to talk about
Yeah,
it.
you made it.
Cool.
It was a positive, and then it got moved to a negative.
Yeah, a little bit.
Maria, what was your positive?
I met my boyfriend's family for the first time this weekend, so
How did it go?
exciting. It was really good.
I bet they fucking hated you.
No, so rude.
Look at that face. You can never hate that face. Come on now.
I love it.
It went really well. We went to his sister's place and had drinks, and then we went out to dinner with his sister and his fiance, and then his parents met us at like a cocktail bar after dinner. So it was really nice, and we got along super well. It was just I was really nervous for it, but it went like better than I could have imagined, and we get along so well. So it's a good sign in the relationship. Good step forward.
Yay! I love that.
That was my positive. Negative is I got sunburnt.
No, I don't want any negatives.
Oh, it's not the only sunburnt one.
I know. If my only negative is a sunburn, like way worse things could be happening. So
Sure.
it's not
Oh,
that
for
bad.
sure.
Life, do you have a positive?
I drank a lot.
Are you going to throw up in the middle of the podcast again?
Probably not. No, we did a danger yesterday. We did the Wade Boggs challenge from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I was second to last. My roommate kind of full on sprinted to the finish line, so he lost first. But yeah.
Wait,
What
so
is
did you
the-
play baseball
what is
after?
Because you have to hit a baseball twice. We didn't have one, but like people
No, you
passed
have
out
to hit a
before then
home
anyway.
run.
Yeah, you get 3 chances. Yeah, but basically, if you haven't seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the longest flight in the U.S. is from L.A. to New York, and it's about 5 hours. And someone drank, I think, 73 beers on that flight. So the challenge is everyone has like these white T-shirts, and the theme for yesterday was spirit animals. So you had your spirit animal written on your shirt. Mine was a red panda. And you tally mark however many beers you drink in you have a 5-hour time span, but if you pass out, you're like out. But it like stops counting however much you drank. So you have to be the last one up and you have to drink the most number of beers. So I think the winner drank like 23 before he threw up.
Like fun and all to be.
You're also supposed to hit a home run.
Yeah, you have to be able to hit a home run after you've consumed all the beers, which no one did because everyone just passed out.
Oh my god, that sounds so aggressive.
Yeah, I think I only had like 6.
You
or
only had
7.
6 beers.
Hey, I'm not as primed as I was in college, all right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to be like, oh, you only had 6 beers?
Yeah.
That's probably all I could consume too.
Just a forewarning, a good chunk of us here have terrible allergies, and I just want everybody to know that before you see each of us wiping our noses and sneezing and doing gross things. So please excuse us. So
Oh man.
first topic, like I said, it's kind of heavy, but we thought that this would be something that's important to talk about, especially given the current state of the U.S. in terms of racially charged violence. As a trigger warning, just for anybody who is listening, we are going to talk about the Atlanta spa shooting and other recent events in terms of specifically violence towards Asians and Asian Americans in the U.S. But like I said, we thought it was an important topic to talk about, and it impacts, members here, but also our family and our friends and people we really care about. So, to be honest, I kind of wait, like when shootings happen right away, I tend to wait to read about them just because I don't want to get caught up in like the massive information flood that happens like immediately after, because I never know like what is actually confirmed and what's not confirmed, or what's a rumor and what's factual. So I was reviewing it this morning, knowing that we were going to talk about it and having read things online, and things like that. And for those that don't know, I believe it was on March 16th. Is that correct?
You're correct. It was the
I am.
16th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on March 16th,
In Atlanta, Georgia.
a 21-year-old man drove to, I believe it was 3 different spas, Asian-owned and operated spas, and ended up killing 8 people. 6 of them were Asian women, injuring, I believe, 1 other, correct? If I'm wrong,
so, yeah.
please
And
let me
7
know.
of the 8 were women in general.
Yeah, 7 of the 8.
6 were Asian women, 7 were women.
But people were specifically pointing out how these were Asian run spas, primarily Korean women. I know that this made news in South Korea, actually, because so many of the women were Korean. And the Cherokee County Sheriff, when discussing it, said the shooter had a quote, really bad day. The shooter said that he had a sexual addiction, was evangelical Christian, and had gone to different like rehabs for sex addiction that were not that were all religious based rehabilitation, and claimed that he had gone to those well, not those specific, but has gone to massage parlors for sex and was feeling very conflicted, supposedly, about his religion and, well, mental health. But at the same time, things have come out on social media that he's posted about the China virus. The sheriff that tweeted and said that he had a really bad day also had things on social media and was even selling shirts that said COVID-19, the imported virus from China, spelled as CHY-NA. So
The way that Trump says it, China.
yeah. So
Ew.
now there's a lot of talk about what was the motivation. Was it racially charged? I personally believe it was, given the demographic. I mean, if the target was sex workers, they're not all sex workers are Asian women, if you get what I mean. But in this case, it seemed to very much target Asian women in particular. And then given all that's come out social media-wise that the shooter has posted, I would argue that that's the case. But I want to hear other people's thoughts on it and where you're kind of standing now.
Saying that he had a bad day, first of all, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because I've had bad days, but I don't commit mass murders on my bad days. but I might take like a shot or something, but like of like tequila, not like at people.
Jesus.
Okay, I don't mean to laugh, but that's
Okay. Anyways, so like that's just a stupid excuse to start with, but then also with saying that it had to do with his sexual frustrations and some sort of conflict with his religion, it's almost like they're trying to justify it. Because I don't actually care what the reason is. There is no good reason to just murder innocent people. So I don't even know why that information is supposed to be relevant. But but now it's kind of showing you the character of the sheriff because you're essentially just trying to cover up a hate crime. Like, say what it is. It's a hate crime.
The New York Times, The Daily, did a really, really good episode on it where they talked about why it's so hard to convict things like this as a hate crime, especially against Asian Americans. Because, and one of their points was that there's no like big symbol. Like if you saw a swastika, like that's very clear that that's like a hate crime against Jewish people. But like there's no Asian American symbol like that makes it like super obvious. So then everyone tries to like justify it and explain it away just like that sheriff does. And that's such a big problem because if you're not convicting these people of hate crimes against Asian American people, it just gets harder and harder to like find cases to kind of like back up your reasoning about why it is a hate crime. And like in the eye of the law kind of thing is what they were talking about. And it's just frustrating.
I think part of it too goes with the model minority myth and the Asians in the U.S. occupy this white but not white enough space where they're still the minority, but like because of that model minority myth of like they are high achievers, earn more, don't commit crimes, and so on and so forth. Like they fit within whiteness, but are still excluded from that. And I think that goes also with the difficulty of prosecuting these kinds of events as a hate crime, because then people fall back into that like underlying feeling of whiteness around Asian Americans.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still like shaking in anger and like sadness and frustration because it's like it's hard for me specifically. For those who don't know me, obviously I'm adopted. I was adopted into a white family when I was only 9 months old, so I grew up in a very white community. The majority of my friends are white. The majority of like my past relationships have been with white men, and it's hard to kind of place myself in all of this because I have grown up with such like a perspective similar to a lot of my white family or a lot of my white friends. So it was like I wasn't quite sure where to place all of the feelings that I was having. And I almost felt like I didn't have a right to be as angry as some other, AAPI people because they have like had to deal with it on such a larger scale every single day. But I had like a really good conversation with my brother, and he, said something. It was basically like, the racists don't care what your backstory is. Like, they don't care that you were like raised as one of their own. They don't care that like you have like a lot of white friends or your family's white. Like, you will first and foremost always be, Asian to them first because you obviously are Asian on the outside. So they're going to hate you just as equally. But yeah, so it's obviously, I should have done, honestly, what Paige did when it first happened. I should have just like not looked at anything and just like let the truth come out in more like concrete articles instead of trying to piece together like a tweet from here, an article from there, and an interview from there. But I didn't. I went down the multiple rabbit holes of everything, watching countless interviews, watching like everyone's opinions on both sides. And it was honestly just information overload. And I had to figure out like how I wanted to process things. And one of the first things I did immediately was I reached out to all of my Asian American friends. I have two of my cousins were also adopted, but they were adopted from Korea and I was adopted from China. So I reached out to them too. And they both had very similar mentalities and experiences to me, being that they, you know, grew up and were raised in such white societies. They had to very much kind of like figure out how their Asian background connected to their current selves, which is still something that all of us kind of are working through and we're figuring out. But it kind of sucks that this event kind of made it all resurface again, and us have to like kind of look at ourselves more and figure out, you know, and process all of these feelings that we're having, and like how, even though distanced we feel, like how much it's still like our homes. I'm lucky enough to live in a very accepting city of all people, of like all different races, all different sexual orientations, all different everything, religions. So I've never really felt super close to a lot of the problems, whether it be against Asian Americans, whether it be against women, whether it be anything, because I've been fortunate enough to grow up around people who share the same mentality and acceptance that I try to exude. So it kind of also makes you feel a little helpless because you're in such like a, I don't know, like woke place. So it's not always like, even if you pick up your banners here and you go on a protest, you go on a march or something, and you are doing good, it's not necessarily where the fight is. The fight is, you know, usually across the country somewhere, or like places that you would not necessarily love to live, right? So it's kind of like, what can you do on like such a smaller scale where you are to help the bigger picture, I guess.
I saw something, I think it was an Instagram post, and it was like, parents of kids that like you've adopted from Asian countries, like you need to think about the way that you're presenting this to your kids. So I really like the way that your brother worded it. And obviously it's different because like you're an adult, you're not like a child. But I guess like I'm curious at how, like as a kid, you would have wanted that explained to you. If you were like 11, 12, like in 2021, like watching all of this, like what would you want your parents to say?
Yeah, that's like the hardest question, right? Is that I like love my parents dearly. They saved my life essentially, right? But there's still like this was back in the 90s. So like it wasn't necessarily something that like you needed to discuss or you needed to fix, because they were bringing me to a better life here, right? Which kind of meant maybe sacrificing like a rich culture or a rich history that I was a part of, because back then, you know, this was the dream. Everything here, so much better than everything anywhere else. Therefore, we're going to raise them as if they were always a part of this society, which I feel like was misguided, but not on purpose.
Like well-intentioned.
Exactly,
so like
exactly.
Misguided but well-intentioned.
Yeah. And I mean, like in all the videos I saw, there's, you know, people recounting like their own children or like their nieces and nephews or just children in the community being like, why do they hate us? Like they're kids. When you're a kid, you have no concept really of like race or prejudice or like being hated because you're XYZ that you cannot control. So it's like this takes me to like such a place of like my own children too, right? Because I theoretically would either have children or adopt children also from China, maybe. I don't know. I'm only 24. We haven't gotten there yet. But how would I explain that to them? How would I explain that like some people will just hate you for no reason because you're different, and they think that your way of being different isn't as good as their way of being different, so therefore they have to attack you because you're not like things. Like that's such a heavy thing for a child, I feel like, to accept. Therefore, I feel like a lot of parents kind of like swerve it, which like I don't know that I wouldn't do either, you know? And I've like thought about that far into the future, like what I would say or what I would do, and I don't know. I know that everyone's doing the best that they can, but it's not an easy question, and I hope that the world doesn't look like this when I have kids, but who knows?
So I think with your question about like how you would approach something like that with your kids, I feel like I agree. I think a lot of parents do kind of swerve that, and it's one of those things that isn't acknowledged until it has to be. And unfortunately, I feel like the only way to explain that is basically what you said, where people are going to hate you for no reason, and that's just what they do. Like, there is no other explanation. That's it. And, like, you want it to be better than that, but you can't make it better because that's all it is.
Because, like, Matt and I have always, like, we're very much on the same page that, like, if we, like, even if, like, we can still have kids, like, we're still really open to adoption. And I always kind of think about that, like, if a baby comes into our lives that, like, doesn't look like us, like, how would I explain that? Like, how would I raise them to, like, still be confident in themselves and like own their differences. And it's just like, it makes me sad that like there's so many parents out there who have to do that and like have to explain that to them, and that like you can't fix it for them. Because I feel like as like a parent, for the most part, like most parents are like, I want to fix this for my kids and like make their lives like the easiest they can be.
Yeah. Or protect them from all the bad stuff that's out there. Because ignorance is bliss, and it's kind of, I feel like parents feel like they need to protect their child's innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of kids probably don't see it until they get to college, and then it hits them like a Mack truck. You're just like, wow.
I think they see it even earlier though. Like,
yeah, I feel like middle school, high school.
Yeah, which sucks because that's a very developmental period for
Same.
establishing confidence and like identity. But yeah, Lowlife reached out to me recently too to like talk to me about it. Because for those that don't know, my fiance is Korean, so either I will have a child that is half Asian, or I'm going to adopt a child from Korea. So ultimately, though, I'm going to have a child that doesn't look exactly like this white, super white face. Because for those who are listening, I have blue eyes, blonde hair, and I'm pale as can be. Like, I burn. So it's like something
like Maria did this weekend. Hello.
So like it's definitely something I've had to think about and consider, and I think in some ways it's a little easier because my research topic is on Japan, but Koreans in Japan, so I'm already like looking at cases of discrimination and fitting in and these sort of like passing ideals and things like that. So I've had to engage with it, but I still feel it's very different when you have to like try and raise a human in the world that is well adjusted and like feels that they fit into society, even though there are definitely people that don't feel that they should be there in the first place. And I haven't like thought too deeply of partly because I'm not like, I don't have a kid yet. I'm not looking at having a kid quite yet, but like when is an appropriate age and time to also bring this up? If it's not like, if I have a child that comes home to me and tells me like somebody made fun of me because of the shape of my eyes or like the way that I look or what I eat or something, then I think that that's a great opportunity that to have that conversation. But I also think it's an ongoing conversation, and I don't want it to only be you had a crappy experience, so now I'll explain it. Like I want to give them the tools to deal with that experience before it comes to them. And I don't like, I'm not sure if I'll figure it out until I have a kid even, because it's so difficult, especially because I don't have to experience it in that way. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, kids are mean too. Kids are so mean.
Oh my god, yeah. I really hope by the time like our kids like are into schools too, that like anti-racism like education is a lot more prevalent in schools.
I have a question. So one thing that I have seen going around, specifically after the shooting happened, but I also saw it when like the Black Lives Matter movement was going on too, is this whole like movement on social media to shop
Yellow box?
Black-owned businesses. And then, no, so like shop Black-owned businesses when Black Lives Matter was happening. And now there's this whole movement of people posting like, oh, shop these Asian, like local small Asian owned businesses, and to like show some sort of support to the community, obviously. But I wanted to know what your guys' thoughts on it is, because I personally see it as like, obviously it's a great way to support the communities that are feeling some like hurt in these moments. But then I think like I understand doing that, but at the end of the day, shopping these small businesses is not going to end racism towards these group of people. Obviously, it will lift them up and provide them with maybe orders, revenue that they wouldn't have gotten if we weren't elevating their brands and like putting it out there for other people to shop. But I feel conflicted sometimes because I'm like, yes, I get it, but this is not going to solve the problems. Like having tough conversations with family, friends, whatever is where like the real change starts. It's not necessarily buying things from businesses that are owned by a particular race or ethnicity. So I was just wondering what you guys thought about that.
I like 100% agree with what you said. My only concern, I don't like picking and choosing like what exactly the conversation should be about because it's still a beneficial talk, but I would not want the conversation to be dominated by like it feels very capitalistic still to be like, okay, like here's this really terrible thing that happened, now buy something. And like it's still good to support these businesses, but I would much rather the conversation be, okay, how can we change the laws? How can we deal with radicalization of young white men? How can we have better gun control? How can we deal with the way that the media and how we as a country collectively have allowed people to be radicalized during COVID-19 and talks about Asian hate and xenophobia? Like these are things that will actually cause like very long-term change, while if you buy something in the moment too, you're not creating long-term change necessarily. Like unless you are going back to these companies that are black owned and Asian owned, like you should be continuously supporting them, not just like making a single order right then and there in the moment, but like also make sure that that's a long-term change that you're like habitually doing on top of promoting systematic change to like stop this from happening again. And I don't see that, and I think that's part of the reason that we keep running into this in the US over and over and over again.
Yeah. And with what you said about like the capitalizing, I was just thinking the same thing, and I feel like I'm going to sound like a jerk for like this thought process that I had, but it seems weird to me for like your focus to go to like let's capitalize on the trauma of our own community.
Yeah, and I was just saying, like, most of the time, it's not even the people within the community that are the ones posting, like, hey, here are these local Asian owned businesses. It's like the white massive influencers online trying to, like, use their platform to do some sort of good. So they, like, compile a list of Asian owned businesses. So it's not even like it's other people, like, I don't know, seeing that trauma and thinking that that's the best way to help. Like, it's just a weird mindset.
I think kind of the reason though that people do that is because they are so overwhelmed in like their own like personal life that they're like, this is a change that I can make today that's somewhat, I don't want to say effective, but they're like, okay, like I'm not a lawmaker, I'm not a big social activist, like I'm not like a big influencer in my community that like can stand on the sidewalk and like make a big difference, but like I can control like where I eat dinner tonight. Mm-hmm. So I think too that sometimes people do that because it makes them feel like they're making a difference. But I think that needs to be coupled with a lot of other things.
As far as just like the spreading the news about eating certain places, I don't know that I like, obviously, like you said, that's something, but it also just kind of feels like a way to validate the shitty things. Like, oh, well, this is shitty that this happened, but look at what I'm doing to compensate. Like, those aren't equal things, you know? Like, it's not going to erase what just happened.
For sure. Oh, 100%.
And also, you did kind of point out something that I don't like about that mentality. It's the fact that like people are like, I'm going to do this because it makes me feel like I'm doing something. It makes me feel like I'm helping the people who are suffering, and it's not really about you. So like the mentality of wanting to do something that maybe is helping because it makes you feel better shouldn't be the driving narrative for why you do anything at all. And also saying something like, oh, support a Black-owned business or support an Asian-owned business Well, like, how did that actually help, though? Because what if you did go and support a Black-owned business that doesn't actually do anything to help with the movement? What if you did go help an Asian-owned business who was just like, well, this didn't really impact me, so whatever. You literally did nothing at that point. There are better ways to help. And if you want to, like, advertise, like, certain businesses and stuff like that, like, keep that energy whether there is a traumatic event going on for that group or not.
So next topic is friend breakups. I have had about one really significant friend breakup in my life, and it is surprisingly just as difficult, if not more difficult, than like a breakup with a significant other. I think even to this day, because I never got like any really legitimate closure from it, and to this day, I still get like kind of salty. It's been years, but I'm salty. Yeah, I think though I'm lucky to have only had like one of those. But what about, how is your friend breakup history?
Kobe almost broke up with me once.
I have a question about yours.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
She's smiling because she knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I do. But so for yours, was it like, was it like a situation where you just kind of like drifted apart, stopped talking, or was there like an actual conversation where you guys were like, we are not friends anymore?
I'll just give the background, the context of it, because it's almost like a weird mix of the two, where we were really, really close in high school, like literally spent almost every day together. And then when I went to college, she was a year younger, so she still had a year left before she would graduate. And in that time, she started hanging out with some not so reputable people, and started getting really into drugs and developed an addiction. And so kind of from there, like, it just spiraled where, you know, like, she just kept laying me down, and I kept trying to be there and, like, be supportive, but, like, it's also a balance of not pushing too hard, because if you push too hard and somebody is in the midst of their addiction, they're going to cut you off completely, which is really scary when you're close with somebody, because you don't want to, like, lose them entirely, and you don't know if they're going to be okay anymore. And then it finally just hit the point where, like, it was taking so much out of me emotionally and even just, like, time-wise, trying to, like, stay in touch with her and, like, keep up, that I kind of just made the decision not to engage with it anymore. And she didn't really, like, say much about it, so it wasn't kind of like we drifted apart, but, like, I made a choice not to do that. And then a few years later, she reached out again and asked to hang out, and I was like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to see you or, like, spend time with you if you're still doing drugs. And luckily she said that, like, she wasn't anymore, and she was in recovery, which she was, and so I'm very happy because she's not in that crowd. But, like, things had changed so much with our relationship and, like, who she was at that point, that there was no getting back, like, what we used to have. And so I kind of cut my losses and was like, I'm just happy that, like, you're alive and healthy now, but, like, we can't maintain a friendship any longer. In some ways, though, it hurts because, like, even now I'm kind of like, what could I have done differently for that not to happen to you? And, like, I know that there's nothing I could have personally done, but it took time to, like, work through that and be like, well, was I responsible in any way? Was I not there when I should have been? Like, all of these things. So it went beyond just, like, guilt for our friendship being lost to, like, guilt for her well-being not going in the right direction, or her not being healthy, or things like that, or hanging out with the wrong people and all that.
I feel like most of my, like, friendship breakups are almost never intentional. It's always usually just losing contact, and there's definitely people that I wish, like, I personally had tried harder to stay in contact with, but it comes from the whole, like, just how much you grow from, like, 18 to, like, 25 too, in your interests and your passions, like college is very easy to make friends because it's like when we were talking about dating, everyone drinks and goes out to bars or parties, and like everyone studies at Club Lib sometimes. And so therefore it's like easy to connect with a bunch of different people who you may or may not have like any deeper connections with. Like maybe if drinking and studying are your only like commonalities, I feel like that's kind of might be a friendship that's doomed from the start. But it's something very sustainable and very easy while you're still in college. So I feel like when you move out of college and you go to different places, or like most of us, right, we live across the country from each other, but you know, we have this in common and we still have, you know, our memories from college, and it might not be as active as we had hoped it would be, but you still like can definitely make that communication work no matter where you are in life or geographically speaking. It's just kind of if that relationship still seems beneficial enough for you and that you want to put in that work.
I think like my last friendship breakup, I just faded out because explaining it to her was going to be so exhausting because I knew she wasn't going to get it. To me, it was like really obvious like why I had stopped talking to her. But then I realized that like she truly didn't think that she did anything wrong. And I was like, okay, like just like that point alone is like why I can't be friends with you. Because like you truly don't think that like these things that you're saying are not cool. Like she basically like more or less was like comparing struggles. And it was very respectful the way I was like, if you want to talk about this problem in your life, I am totally here for you. But I was like, don't respond to me trying to confide in you, saying that your situation's worse. And it rubbed me the wrong way. So then I said that back, and then she never responded. And then she removed me from like every single social media platform. So I was like, okay, like that makes this friendship breakup very easy. And then like 3 months later, she called me at like 7 a.m. on a Sunday. First of all, I'm never awake at 7 a.m. on a Sunday. You better be dying. Something bad better be happening, or something great better be happening for me to be awake at 7 a.m. on a Sunday. And like, if you've been friends with me like all throughout high school, like you know that I'm not an early riser. But that was like her MO, is like we would have these like similar fights, and then she'd like block me on everything. We wouldn't talk for a month, and then she'd like call me out of the blue and just be like, I'm really sorry for whatever I did. And it was always whatever I did. Like she didn't know, and like that really bothered me too, where I was like, no, like you know. I don't know how you can't know. Like, it's so painfully obvious if you just went back and read our text messages. Mm-hmm. But, like, I still kind of feel bad that, like, I didn't explicitly say beforehand. I did explicitly say, like, we're not comparing struggles here. But I wish that beforehand I had explicitly said, like, no, I was mad at you because of X. Mm-hmm. And I think that it would have been a better relationship if I had been doing that from the start when I noticed this pattern with her, instead of once it got too late. But I'm still blocked on like half of everything, but not on another half of every social media platform. So I'm unsure. I don't really know.
I think something that gets missed a lot in friendships is communication. Like when you're dating somebody and you want it to work long term, you have to communicate. Like you either have a toxic as fuck relationship, break up, or you talk to each other. But if you're friends, I feel that there's less like I have to talk this out with you, and rather I can like fade into the background for a week and then come back later and we'll both pretend nothing happened, but like the issues are still there and they don't get worked through. And it really wasn't until I was in college that like I learned that I would almost call it a social skill of like talking to my friends about things that are bothering me.
I've only had one major friend breakup, I think, in my life. And I don't know how much I should talk or share about it, because I don't know if any of you guys...
It's kind of a tricky topic in case, like, they saw this.
But yeah, I know, like, my friend breakup was someone in our friend group, so it's just, like, a tricky situation. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys still talk to this person, maybe, but...
They just reached out to me, honestly.
No way. I don't.
Yeah, they texted me because I like have obviously been very active about like sharing all of the BS going on with all the hate crimes and stuff. And she messaged me saying like, hey, I know I haven't talked to you in like, I don't know, 4 years or something, but like that doesn't mean like I don't care and I don't want you to be okay. So
I talk to her every few months.
That's wild.
We work through our
Yeah, so-
issues. We're friends.
Good for you guys. I haven't talked to her since our fight.
But I
It was
some fights too where you're like, it's meant to be. I feel like there's some friendship breakup fights that you're just like, you know what, this was a good thing.
Also, your guys'
for
issues
me-
were not as, like, they were, like, way more extreme than, like, the issues me and her had.
Yeah. And I still get like I don't want this to sound bad, but like I don't really think about her anymore much just because I haven't been in touch with her. Our like breakup was like pretty nasty. So it's one of those things that I kind of leave in the past. But it's like when I do think about it, I still get like kind of sad and upset like about just everything that happened. And I think it just goes back to the fact that we were really, really close to each other. And it was like one of those people where you felt like, oh, this is like my best friend for life type of thing. And it sucks that like, ultimately what it came down to, like why we stopped talking was really her boyfriend kind of got in the way and said like really offensive things to me at one point, and she didn't really care about it. He was also at that time, I don't think he is anymore, but just very abusive and scary when he would get drunk, and it put me in a position like in my own home feeling not safe about it, like kind of fearing for myself at one point just because of how bad it got one night. So it was one of those situations where I felt like I was putting in more effort than what I was getting out of it, and this person didn't like really care about how I felt and me at the end of the day. So it was pretty nasty, and it was in college too, so it was like weird for the friend group. I remember it was just like a whole weird experience, but I think I learned a lot from it, and at the end of the day, like those type of, I guess, friendship breakups really just show you what you need out of a friend and what you expect out of a friendship. And if that person's not giving that to you at the end of the day, then you shouldn't be putting like all of yourself into that friendship without getting anything back. So
I think when there's a relationship element to it too, that makes it a little bit messier. Like one of my really best friends in high school, like he stopped talking to me because so there was like three of us, and then like me and the other guy started dating. So then like we'd hang out without him, and he got really upset about it. And I don't think that either of us really handled it the best. And I still like kick myself in the ass that I wasn't like more explicit, that like I don't know. I like think about it sometimes and I'm just like, God damn it, Will. Like I loved you and I missed you a lot. And I just wish that you hadn't let this fucking boner get in the middle of us, because he was a wiener anyways. He was not worth losing my best friend over. And I kick myself in the ass all the time about it. But then I also like am pissed off at Will because I'm like, you didn't communicate that the best way either. And then you put it all on me and like picked this guy over me. And I'm like, I'm still big mad. Like, I remember the first day I met this kid, he was wearing parachute pants and had purple hair and was fighting with our English teacher over Twilight. And I was like, yeah, that's the kid that I want to be friends with for the rest of my life. For sure. And then he let this shitty boyfriend get in the middle of us.
So, like, about the friendship breakup that you were talking about, like, I know that we all kind of had a point where things were tense with that person, but then at some point, like, me and her worked out our issues, and then I go on Twitter, and she was tweeting about how toxic her college friend group was, and how nobody supported her throughout college, and like we like did nothing for her. And I wanted to say something so bad because I was so pissed. Because, like I said, at this point, we were, like, good. We had talked everything out. We watched The Bachelorette. Like, we were good. And then I see this, and I was like, I was like, this is exactly why your other friendship breakups happened. You don't acknowledge the good things that we have done for you. You say that we weren't supportive. You changed your major while you were in school, and we all sat there and listened to you cry about how you didn't know where your life was going, and we were encouraging when you switched your major. We were happy, we were proud, we were supportive. I'm just like, at that point I was just like, what else could we have done? Like, I understand that the ending of that friendship, it was really, really awful. But to say that through the entirety of your college years we were awful, why did you stick with us for 4 fucking years?
I think
Like,
though,
that
when
was-
something is over, people
that hurt me a lot.
I think people kind of either look at past relationships, both like romantic and friendship, with either rose-colored glasses, or they rip out any good aspect of it.
Red.
To make
Did you
it,
see red?
yeah, to make it like, because it's almost easier. Like, I know that compared to like any other breakups I've had in the past, it's easier to not remember anything good about it, because you're like, well, I 100% made the right decision leaving that behind. But if you acknowledge that there was something good there, it makes you question, like, was that the right call? Should I have tried harder? Like, do I want that back in my life? And I just think that, like, by going one extreme or the other, it's easier to process for people.
I think I look back at it too sometimes, and I'm like, it's kind of what you were saying, Paige. Like, I I have regrets sometimes. Like, maybe I should have worked this out, and made it, I don't know, just so that we didn't have to not be friends anymore. But then, like, 2 seconds later, I remember, like, I'm pretty sure she's still with this person, and I don't think I could ever be friends with her as long as she is with, like, the guy she's with right now, just because of, like, awful things. Like, what the things he said to me, you should never say to a person. So as long as she's, like, with him, I could never see myself even, like, remotely trying to be close with her again, which is sad that, like, a person has to come between a friendship that could possibly still be there to this day. So
The thing that I wanted to say is, the last time, I want to point this out because you guys are going to think this is really funny. The last time that I saw this person, we almost, like, kind of got into a fight again, because we were talking about everything that happened and with everyone, like, each different situation. And I was kind of just like, okay, like, yeah, that wasn't awesome for that person to do, but you do also need to acknowledge your own faults in this particular situation, because you have a habit of just being the victim because you don't want to listen to the grievances of your friends. So, like, I'm like, you have to acknowledge other people's, like, reasons for being upset, because that's why a lot of the fights progress the way that they do, because she only listens to her own problems. And then I was like, and, like, another thing that I really want to point out to you, you're the shittiest roommate I've ever had.
Oh my god, I stepped on so many pairs of dirty
face.
undies, dude. So many pairs of dirty undies on my feet.
I was like,
oh my
you're
god.
the worst fucking roommate.
The
I
little
would never live
hairballs
with
in
you
the
again.
shower.
Wait, do you remember the
You
time?
stole my clothes. She stole my brush. She stole my belt, and her sister borrowed and lost it.
Remember
Like,
when you two got into
worst
I was
roommate.
sitting there in the room, and you two, like, got into an argument over her using your stuff, and, like, you were 100% in the right, and, like, you know that meme of the puppet that, like, is looking there and looks over? That was me at my desk, just like, oh no, get me out of here.
Like, I remember that specific event where she took my brush and she
This
used
is
it,
it.
and then it was filled with
This
her
is
hair.
it.
And then I wanted to use it, but I walked up to her, I was like, clean my brush out, like, after you use it. And I'm standing there, and she takes it, and she doesn't do it. And then I got pissed, and I just grabbed it, and I did it myself. And then I think when I left the room, you said she asked you something along the lines of, Why is she so mad?
I really want to be like, don't use her brush.
Asking me first. God damn! I can share.
Even if you do, don't let them know.
To my shit just because it's in the same room as yours. Are you fucking insane?
I do want to avoid like this to turn into like a shitty on one person though.
Yeah.
I'll turn it to me. I'll turn on the beat. Ready? Okay. Yeah. So I feel like it also has to do with like knowing your friends and how they react to things, because the closer you get with people, the more you're like, it's not even worth bringing up X, Y, or Z because I know exactly how they're going to, take the situation. I know they're going to like just leave the room and not be, they're just going to shut down completely and be like, no, yeah, you're right, I'm in the wrong, but not actually mean it, which like could be more frustrating for you. So it's also kind of like picking and choosing your battles with your friends, like really taking a beat and saying like, is this worth what it might become over XYZ? Because I know I personally, even though I may not be the best recipient of constructive criticism or criticism in general or being called on my shit, I kind of like being called on my shit. Like I can be so blind to my own actions without even knowing it. And my first reaction to call me on something might be like, oh, that's not true. Or like, give me an example. Or like, I don't think it went like that. I'm probably usually in the wrong.
I would 100% feel that though, that like if you know that your friend's not going to respond well, I'm famous for that. I'm famous for not bringing it up because I'm like, well, that's not going to go well, and I don't want to talk about it. But
yeah,
it's like,
but then it bottles.
You have to let it go, and I don't do that. I won't say anything, but I don't let it go either. And then I sit here like 4 years later, still pissed off about something that I still haven't said to anyone, and I'm like, or I haven't said to that person, and I just like bitch about it, like to Matt, and then I'm like, God, I really need to fucking say something. But like, you still get scared, you know? Like, it's like that person can be like, obviously, you don't live with them anymore. I don't live with any of my friends anymore. I should not be afraid.
Is there something you need to tell me? You can tell me now.
Do you need to get...
Oh my God. No, we can talk later. No, I'm just saying in general.
Get me the fuck out of here.
Oh my God.
Is it actually me?
Okay, I have one thing I do need to tell you, but really, I will call you later, and I will talk about it, because I just am so mad, and I haven't said anything, and it's been 4 years. Like, we haven't lived together in 4 years, and I'm, like, still pissed off about something that I haven't said to you. I only bitch about it to Katie, and I feel really bad.
Oh my God.
This wasn't supposed to come out in the podcast at all.
Hyperventilating.
Oh my God.
I'm dying.
This will make a great Instagram caption. We can let the viewers vote. Be like, what is Frey still pissed off about 4 years later?
I think I know what it is. For those of you who don't know, all of us have lived together for like 1 or more years.
Yeah.
So we've all
been in the same home together at one point.
Yeah, 1 or 2 points. I think we've all lived together for 1 to 2 years in some capacity.
Okay, well, so on that note, we are running out of time, and I want to make sure.
Don't be afraid.
I want to make sure we get to dating apps, because this is one that Toby was so excited about. We changed the day we talk about it just so Toby could be here for it. So I'm actually just gonna let Toby kick this off because I can see your excitement burning up inside.
Okay. Let's go. Okay, so dating apps. So I have to say, I have both negative and positive experiences with dating apps. I think I've mentioned this before, but I met my future baby daddy on Tinder.
Jesus.
And, you know, that's one thing that came out of that, but I had to go through some fucking nonsense to get to that point. Because the men on dating apps like to send me shit like, hey, you trying to get pizza and fuck? No. Yes. I don't fucking know who you are, and that is not a pickup line.
Can we also say pizza is the least sexy food to start? You're going to be bloated and gross and, like, no. Why? Why pizza?
I'm going to use that pickup line of my husband later. Trying to get pizza and fuck, and he's going to be like, no. Not even in the slightest.
Is it even a pickup line? If there's any... No.
Oh.
If there's like no I just don't feel like you should call it a pickup line if it's like not creative.
I agree.
Like,
Yikes. She said you're not creative.
so anyway, so the reason why I was so excited about this is because I made a PowerPoint a couple weeks ago with a bunch of shit that guys have said to me on Tinder. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's like 20 slides, like 20 to 25 slides. I just wanted to kind of acknowledge some of my favorites. So I think my personal favorite was from Kyle. Of course, his name is Kyle. And he just started things off with, I'm a black girl enthusiast, just so you know.
Ew.
Why?
That
was his intro.
Opening? Oh boy.
And that was the first thing he said to me, and I love that because I love being, like your fetish. Like I love being acknowledged that way. Like that's so cool. Like that makes me feel really good about myself. But occasionally there are people who do send good pickup lines. So actually, I started this conversation. I started this conversation with, on a scale of 1 to America, how free are you tonight? And this person responded with, I'm always America. And then I was like, let me see your best pickup line. And he was like, is that a keg in your pants? Because I'd tap that.
Ew.
And now
I hate all of this.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Oh, can you guys guess who sent me that?
Is it your baby daddy?
It was Z Sweezy. It was Z Sweezy.
Oh my
Sweezy, I don't like that.
Fucking called out.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, that's
Yikes.
so funny.
In his defense, though, we actually already knew each other at that point, and we were just like sending each other shit back and forth.
Okay, so,
So
if
at least I knew he wasn't a creep.
if you find someone on a dating app and you know them, do you swipe right just because you know them, or do you swipe left so they don't think you're actually into them?
If we're friends, I'll
I
definitely
swipe
swipe right.
Yeah, I usually I swipe right on like most people that I know, unless it's a
Yeah.
person that I know that I'm like, ew, I know you and I don't like you.
Yeah.
Always swipe
Because
right.
it
on
usually turns
people.
into like a funny conversation like that if it's a friend.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, what's up, baby?
ABB. I'd always be like, how often do you come here? I'm pretty sure I've said that to Z Sweezy on Tinder too. Probably. So
What if they're just like secretly in love with you and then you treat it as a joke?
I know, that's what I always used to worry about too.
Toby, what are your other highlights?
Okay, some of the other good ones. Kevin said, I know it's Thanksgiving, so let me know if you want a really good stuffing this year.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm going to read Trey's. Trey said, damn girl, I thought melted. Damn girl, I thought chocolate melted when it got that hot. I actually liked that one. And it did make me feel racially weird because Trey is
What
also
is he?
black.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, I did. Yes, don't worry. Yes, he was in fact also black. And then, do you guys like a little Greek mythology?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because Michael does. He says, you remind me of Medusa. Every time I look into your eyes, I get rock hard.
I know exactly where that was going to go.
I feel like I've heard that one before. He should try a little harder.
Medusa was the
a
one
lot
with the
of the-
snakes on her head that made you turn into stone if you looked at her.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
For any of y'all that ever had Tinder, honestly, you gotta just log back on and go through some of those messages because it
They're
was
gold.
fun. It was a lot of fun. There's some that are like gone because I think probably the person like deleted their account or some stuff, and I also haven't used it in 4 years. So there's like things that are missing that I really wish I could get back because there was some horrendous shit sent to me on Tinder. Like, guys are just really freaking gross on there.
I noticed that like once I started using Tinder at home, that like all my friends who like lived in the same area also went out with like the same dude. Like I remember my best friend sending me a screenshot of this one guy, and she was like, I'm going out with him tomorrow. And I was like, bro, he's the most boring person I've ever met. I was like, first of all, he has not changed his profile picture since last year. Second, I had to do all the talking. Like, this man just stared at me the whole time. You will not have a good time. And then another friend screenshot, and they're like, I'm going out with him tomorrow. And I was like, no wonder he's still on this app. He's fucking boring, and no one likes him. God.
Damn, dude, tell me how you really
That was really
feel.
aggressive. I hated wasting my time on those apps, and I'd be like, you're really boring out loud. Why? Why? Well,
I was on
that was
Tinder
aggressive.
for all
I'm
of like
sorry.
2 weeks, and then I got off. Maybe I have like a
It was a
nightmare.
rough 3 years.
I want to hear like a nightmare Tinder story. I don't want your good ones. I want your bad ones. What's your worst?
Jesus.
What's your worst Tinder
Okay.
experience?
I've honestly got like 3, but I don't think I have the heart to say these on an online platform because one of them is so fucking scary.
I had one really good one. I met one of my best friends on Tinder.
Aw.
We met on Tinder, then we went out for dinner, and then we realized that we were just like really good friends. And I hung out with this guy like literally all semester. And then I took him to a date party, and then it got weird after that. Mostly because of low life. It would have been weird, but I couldn't find her the next day. And I thought that I thought she got snatched from the bar, and it was all my fault because she told me she was fine. She was not fine, and she was not where she was supposed to be. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay,
I
I was so drunk at this bar that I was dancing on the stage with this guy. And then the next day, I woke up and everyone was like, have you seen Lo? You were the last one to see her. And I was like, I left her at the bar. She told me she was fine. She told me that her other friend was there and she found him. So I called that friend and he goes, nah, I never saw her last night. And I was like, oh my God, she got snatched. No, you were just at some man's house that you weren't supposed to be at because you told me you weren't going to go back there. And then you pulled over on your phone and didn't.
I remember. I remember.
I was petrified. So then I
was Evans days, right?
what?
I was Evans.
Yep, you were at Stevens. And I was like, and you didn't answer your phone until like 3:30 in the afternoon. So I
I was very
willingly
hungover.
releasing these names.
Oh.
Jesus.
Okay, but Steven is
I
such
don't
a
want-
basic name.
That is a pretty basic.
I said it in Pig
everything.
Latin. I said it in Pig Latin. She
Oh,
said
I'm
it
sorry.
normal.
I didn't understand the Pig Latin. I thought you just
Very
said
hard to
normal.
decode.
Damn.
Z
Toby, what's
Sweezy
your
said never
scary-
believe low life when she says she's fine at a bar.
True.
I shouldn't have.
I need to
True.
know the scary one now. I'm really curious.
Yes.
I kind of want to hear it too.
Unless you're really not
I
comfortable.
honestly I can like tell you about it later, but like I'm
Oh no.
genuinely not okay saying this out loud
Okay.
because I'm not gonna lie, I've put myself in danger.
I'm in danger.
I have definitely put myself in danger, and like I must be one of God's favorites because the things that I have survived.
Oh my god.
Dude, I think about that all the time. I'm blessed that I am favored for some decisions I make. I'm like, that was a bad idea for sure.
What are some I know that like many of us are out of the dating game now, but what were some kind of deal breakers if you saw on a profile that you were immediately like, nope?
Dead fish.
Fucking fish.
Guys, I was literally talking about this with my boyfriend this morning. He was like, would you have swiped left on me if I had a picture with the fish? And I said, immediately.
Immediately. I don't want
I
to know
was like,
how big your fish is.
Immediately. No.
I feel
Oh
like
my
definitely
God.
swiped left on like fishing or hunting pictures.
Yeah.
I
If
also
I
definitely
see some real tree camo, I immediately feel threatened.
Oh yeah.
if I see anything that clashes with like my political view, I'll swipe left. Honestly, if I see like a cat, I'll swipe left because I'm very allergic to cats. It's just not gonna work out.
I also swipe left if you only have pictures of your abs in your bathroom mirror. If all 5 of your photos on Tinder are you half naked and like only half of your face, I don't trust you. Actually, you want to hear the most dangerous thing I did on Tinder that actually went really well? So this was obviously pre-husband. I swiped right on this kid because he only had hockey pictures, but I couldn't see his face because he has a helmet on in all these fucking pictures. But he was really fun to talk to, and then I met him at a park to go hammocking. I have no idea what this boy looks like. He could have been so ugly, and I had no idea. It never once dawned on me that he could have been like a serial killer. I hung out with him all summer. He was actually really cool. But I told my mom too. I was like, I'm going to meet this guy in the park, and she was like, "Are you fucking serious?" And I was like, "Yeah." No, like, he has no social media. Like, I couldn't find him anywhere. He didn't. I don't know if I didn't FaceTime him beforehand either. I just hoped for the best. But I survived, and we hung out all summer. Lowlife met him, actually. That was, okay, wow, you don't remember anything about our friendship. I see how it is. This is the start of the breakup conversation.
Oh my god. Anyways, so Lowlife, you seem like you were about to say something.
I'm scared to say anything now. I went on a date when I moved here from, I think it was Inge, like back last summer, and we met and we had a like picnic kind of in a park, drinks in a park because COVID. So, and the first thing that he started talking about was how he was like planning to move to Canada because he's like half Canadian. And I'm like, then why are we on this date if you're about to leave?
That's weird.
Yeah, so I was like, not that I was like interviewing him as like a potential like husband or anything, but
You know
But
what
still.
I don't like when I see is not that I'm seeing this anymore, but like even when I have guy friends that like have Tinder, when they post pictures of them with a bunch of like attractive women, and it's not that I don't want you hanging out with women, it's more so like, how do you value these women if you're like using them as a prop to show that like I get hot chicks around me? Like, why?
I have
as
a friend that did that.
like I fuck.
Yeah, like what am I supposed to take from that? Like,
Okay, so one of my guy friends in college did the same thing. Like one day someone was like, "Hey, you're on his Tinder." So I texted him. I was like, "Why am I on your Tinder?" And he goes, "That was just a really good picture of me. Like you just know the good angles." That was truly it. That like he looked good in that picture because I was there and made sure that we both looked good in the picture, so I could post it. But he used it.
Yeah.
Like that's the only reason why he used it was because he's like, "Well, you just made sure I look good."
they
And
don't
I
think
was
about
like-
it enough. They need to think
No.
deeper.
Exactly.
Yeah, how do you guys feel when like they have a picture with like other women and they put like a smiley face or something over their face so you can't see who the other woman is?
I think that's rude.
Are their tits
If
out?
I was that woman, I'd be
No, it's just like they don't want you to think that they're like their girlfriend, or like maybe they specify like, this is my sister, by the way, or something.
put in your bio that like the smiley face is over her face because she just doesn't want her identity on the internet.
Yeah, like I want
It
to
might
protect
be-
her privacy, maybe.
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
she's it'd be weird if
Acknowledge
she was an ex.
consent.
Yeah. Could be an ex too, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's how you word it if someone asks you. Because if you're just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's my like crazy ex-girlfriend," I'm like, "Why is she crazy? What did you do to make her crazy?"
What did you
I just
do?
want to know.
Were you
Yeah.
complicit in this? Virtual
That's where
Chef
I go
said,
first.
My next, like
Virtual Chef
Have you
said
guys
all my
ever
Tinder
seen,
pics
like-
are with my mom, and I love that. I love that.
That is very wholesome.
Keep that going. Although then you might get like a just
All
no
of them,
MIL
though?
situation where
Mhm.
suddenly you have an overbearing mother-in-law.
Have you guys seen the profiles where it's like couples that are trying to find a third?
yes, I have.
Oh, those freak me out too.
Fucking wild.
For some
There's a
reason, I always get guys asking me if I want to have a threesome. Like it's been a thing on my Tinders, like all the time. Like, do I give off this vibe or like?
You don't
Ask
give
me-
off that vibe.
But I asked me point blank
I'm-
that college,
So
and I always was like, "What vibe do I give off that makes you think that I'm going to say yes to that?"
There's wait.
that's a
Okay,
We
so
definitely did that. Wasn't there
virtual
Tinder groups?
there's a Tinder group, and it's a feature. Okay, I know that you can like swipe with your friends on, and then like when you do the group, yeah, like you can swipe with groups. So it'll be like 3 different profiles or something that are all linked together, and then you're swiping in a group together, and then you can find other groups, and then you start chatting in a group chat.
So
I've done it a couple times. It's
virtually.
No, it's not.
No.
Okay, so
It's like more like double date.
Intended for the purpose of being like a swingers party sort of thing, or maybe that's exactly what they were going for. But the way that we used it was we were just like looking for cute boy groups to talk to, and so we did that for a little while. But what I'm talking about specifically is one singular profile that has pictures of 2 people, and they're like, we are using this single profile to look for a third so we can be a throuple. And that's what I'm like, that's pretty wild.
I think I'm all for thruples. Whatever you want to do, whatever, let your freak flag fly. What I don't like is when they're cringy profiles and they're saying weird shit and you're just like, no. Like, if maybe you approach this differently, I'm not saying that I personally would be down, but I think more people would be down if you weren't fucking weird about it. If you're just like, look, we're just all in it to win it or some shit. I don't know. I think it's the presentation.
All in it to win it.
I think it's the presentation of the question. And I don't know that you really lead with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're looking for it, like, you're a trouble who definitely wants like another girl, maybe just put the girl in there, or like just put the guy in there, and then be like, I think that you would like my other significant other. You know what I'm saying? That is the presentation.
Could you guys ever be okay with a throuple?
Like, do you mean like as a hookup, or do you mean like a legitimate polyamorous relationship?
Both situations. How do you feel about either of them?
I think I'd be overwhelmed. I'd be like, there's a lot going on right now, and I can't.
Well, in which situation, like as a hookup or like as a relationship, or both?
Both. I think I'd be overwhelmed by both.
For polyamory, I just know that like I am far too jealous of a person to like be comfortable. Also,
Same.
That's a lot of work. Okay.
Yeah.
Relationships are time consuming. Can you imagine trying to keep that up with more than one person? So like I totally understand people like having enough love and time and like the emotional capacity for like multiple partners that they like care about beyond just wanting to like hook up with. But like that's not me. I'm tired all the time. I'm jealous. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't think if I had like an actual throuple, I wouldn't want to pick up after 2 people. I pick up after my husband enough. I don't need to pick up someone else's socks off the floor.
That sounds like a bigger conversation you need to have later.
Oh my God. No, I've accepted the fact that I'm picking up Matt's socks for the rest of my life. For sure. He just like cannot get with the whole like sock in the laundry basket deal. I don't know why.
Have you guys ever seen that video where this guy is talking to his girlfriend and he's like, hey, if you just put stuff on here, someone magically comes and takes care of it all?
Yeah,
and
the
like,
magic
you put your dirty clothes in this bath, someone just washes it. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Do you actually believe that we have like cleaning elves who do all this? It's me.
I literally did the exact thing to Matt once. I was like, you know that I do all this shit, right? It's not. I'm not Snow White. I don't like out the window and a bunch of animals come in and do it for us. Oh yeah.
So we're kind of running out of time. So should we jump into Q&A and advice? Because we actually have a pretty good amount of questions this time. So let's do that.
Can I say everybody one more throuple thing real quick?
Yes, I would love to hear before.
Okay, so my final thought on the throuple thing. I genuinely do not believe that you love both people equally. There is a favorite, and that shit has to be infuriating.
Oh my God, I saw this TikTok, and it was like the rules for my wedding, and this girl was like, if you're in a throuple, you're like, they have to fight for who's your plus one. You can't pick your favorite. You have to pick who is like, who has received the honor to come to my wedding, and I thought that was really funny.
Sounds terrifying.
Right? Could you imagine having to battle between the plus one? I would just give them a plus 2 at that point. If you know.
I want to see the fight.
The fight has to be live streamed for all the guests. We need to vote at the end.
Okay, so question 1. This is from Gosh Heck Santa. We have hotter or notter. A guy
Nice.
who shows up in work boots and paint splattered jeans for the first date.
Notter.
Not her.
It depends for me. I mean, if he's doing his own work around the house, I'm kind of about that.
Yeah, but you knew you were going on this date. This first
What
date,
if-
first
What
impression.
if he was really busy and was like, man, I was just painting the house and had to...
Is this early on and you're not being prioritized? I feel like that's a recipe for disaster.
Okay, it also depends
Yes.
on how fancy the date is, you know? Like, I don't know.
Well, what
I
if
How
wouldn't write it
fancy are
off.
his work boots?
I wouldn't write him
Okay.
off right away.
For a first date, no. But like, if I find that look hot coming home, kind of deal. You know.
Okay, fair.
And I guess it depends on like what the rest of your body looks like. Like if you're like ripped and like wearing work boots and like paint splattered jeans, I'm like, yes. I don't know. Maybe that's just like Matt comes home looking like that, so I'm into it.
Okay, next one. What's hotter? Upper lip bite or lower lip bite?
You look like a bulldog and that's your upper lip. That's not true.
Wait,
It's
wait,
definitely
wait,
lower lip.
I have a question. Is it like a person is biting your lip? Do you prefer it that they bite your top lip or your bottom lip, or the person is biting their own lip, like trying to be sexy?
Okay, Addie, you need to specify your
Like-
questions more, because this is 2 weeks in a row that there has been room for interpretation.
Yes. I think both is bottom lip. Whether you're biting your own or they're biting yours, the bottom lip is still hotter. Because you look like a
Usually
bulldog if
people
you bite
go
your own
for-
top lip.
Yeah.
Okay, if we're talking about like biting someone else's lip, I do agree bottom lip makes more sense. Can you imagine biting someone's top lip? That's so weird.
Yeah, no.
But then if you're talking about like the person biting their own lip, that shit makes me so uncomfortable. And I think it's because of TikTok and all of these videos
True.
where people are just like,
Oh yeah. I hate all of it.
Okay, next
They bite
one.
their lips in every single video.
Yeah, you get squinty, you're like, yeah,
It's
and I don't like
creepy
it.
when they're like 15 too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
it's a thirst trap, and I'm like, ew.
Oh.
Can we please cancel thirst traps at the second half of 2021? Get them all out of your system now. We're not doing this shit anymore.
Okay.
Self lip bites, definitely bottom lip. Yeah, and Addie could
Yeah.
see
Yeah,
confirmed.
bottom lip. We have, would you rather get $50 an hour for browsing your favorite social media website, such as Facebook, TikTok, Reddit, or get $1,000 every time you successfully push someone to the ground?
Oh, $1,000.
Can I push children? Because I'm gonna make bank if I can push
Children are someone. So, yeah, that's a plan. You just go to, like, one of those playgrounds with, like, soft furniture or something. And, like, you know that video of the dude
Nah,
doing
fuck them
dodgeball and
kids.
just, like, whipping the balls at kids in, like, a play area? That's me. That would be me.
Oh, 100%. We're all making a pact. I'm like, I'm taking your ass down today.
Hookie said, do you get a bonus if they stay down?
Yes, 100%.
Jeez.
This is a really aggressive episode.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Next one. Has anyone really been far wait, what the fuck is this sentence? Okay, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it and you tell me if it makes sense, okay? Has anyone really been far even as I can't even.
Okay, I gotta pull up the chat now.
Said, has anyone really been far even as decided to use even go want to do look more like?
Do you
What the hell?
ever just the like and just the like the just
Did you ever have a dream where you want him, you want him to do you so much that you could do anything?
I'm trying to
It's
read
copy
it
pasta.
to understand it more, but I can't.
Neonad says it's pasta, so it's just roll.
You know those
Okay.
pictures that like are kind of recognizable but not recognizable, and you can't make any sense of what's going on in the picture, and like your brain kind of thinks that's a lamp, but it's also definitely not a lamp. That is the verbal equivalent
yes.
of those photos.
Yes.
Just trying to make us look we all just had a stroke. It's fine.
I feel like I did reading that.
Yeah.
I did my best. I really did.
Oh my god.
Do any of you, I guess, lately we've been doing a lot of question and answers from other people, but do any of you have burning questions or are seeking advice?
If if you had to start watching a show from your childhood again, like when you were like 6, what show would you pick?
That one where they took all the boxes, like the cardboard boxes, and then they made it into that really cool treehouse. I don't remember what it's
Out
called.
of the box.
Yes!
Out of the box.
That's exactly
that
it.
dude just popped up on my TikTok timeline singing that song. It's like, so long, farewell to you, my friends.
Yes.
That's all I remember.
That's the show. I wanted to play in that box castle so bad.
Yeah.
For real.
I
Ooh.
feel like I liked Clifford the Big Red Dog a lot. Or Bee Couch with that clown.
Wait. I need to send you the picture of the live action photo of Clifford
No,
the Big
it's so
Red
bad.
Dog.
It's so
Wait,
bad.
Wait, I want to see it. I've never seen it.
Magic School Bus was
Yikes.
good. Okay, people. I think, does anybody have closing remarks before I end the chaos that's going on here?
My closing remarks. I would just like to say that I would pick Dragon Tales.
That's a good one,
Oh my
too.
god, yeah, that was so good. What was, something, the Ferocious Beast was pretty good, too.
Maggie and the Ferocious
Maggie and the
Beast.
Ferocious
Yeah.
Beast. Okay. Anyways, thank you for being here, everyone. We appreciate you. Please don't forget to leave a review. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube. I don't think you can leave reviews on YouTube, but you can like it, which I would appreciate as well if you give us a like and maybe subscribed. Also, please share this with your friends. If you enjoy it here, that is the best way for us to reach more people and spread more joy, is if you share it with others that you care about.
Yes.
And that you think it would be relevant to. We're going to do a raid, but please stick around just a little longer because I'm going to tell you next week's topics, which are adult finances, budget tips and tricks, salary discussions. I guess it's going to be an episode about moolah.
Hey, don't forget next week either Frey or Lo will be gone. Whoever wins the friendship breakup battle will remain on the
We'll remain. We're going to have to duke it out. And then
We'll record the whole
that,
conversation and you guys can vote.
the episode after next week will be OnlyFans, being safe online and in bed, and how to speak up for yourself in relationship. If you have any questions, if you want to partake in our Q&A or request any advice, you can send us a DM or email us at dudeknowstuff@gmail.com. Additionally, we have a Discord where you can continue the conversation there. And I greatly appreciate you all being here. All right.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Bye, guys.